Imagine you wake up in a town where the bells are tolling, not for a funeral, but for a trial. You walk to the square expecting a thief, a heretic, a murderer. Instead, there's a coffin. They've dug someone up, they've dressed the body, and they're about to prosecute it, not as metaphor, not as theater, as law. Because in medieval Europe, death didn't always end a case. Sometimes it started one. To us, a trial is for the living: testimony, defense, guilt, sentence. But medieval justice lived inside a different universe. The dead weren't gone. They were still part of the moral order. Souls continued into reward or punishment, and the church claimed jurisdiction over both. If guilt could stain a soul after death, then verdicts could too. And there was another colder reason: property. In many regions, conviction, even posthumous, meant estates could be seized, titles revoked, families ruined. A corpse on trial could still cost the living everything. So, when a society believed sin echoes past the grave, order must be publicly restored, and wealth can be reclaimed through verdict, the dead were never truly safe. If there is a single image that defines corpse trials, it's Rome, January 897. A pope has been dead for months. Politics in the city is volcanic. Factions are clawing at each other for control of the church and the empire behind it. And Pope Stephen VI decides the only way to win is to put his dead predecessor on trial. They exhume Pope Formosus, dress his decayed body in papal robes, prop him on a throne inside the Basilica of St. John Lateran, and appoint a deacon to answer for him. Stephen shouts accusations at a corpse: perjury, illegal rise to the papacy, holding dioceses unlawfully. The court finds the dead man guilty. Then they punish him anyway. They strip the robes, cut off the blessing fingers, annul his acts, and throw the body into the Tiber River. This wasn't justice as we'd recognize it. It was power, weaponized against memory. Rome didn't take it quietly. The spectacle was so grotesque that public anger turned into revolt. Stephen was deposed, imprisoned, and soon died in jail. Formosus's body was recovered. Rumors spread that it performed miracles. Within a year, new popes reversed the verdict and banned future corpse trials. So, did that end the practice? Not really. Because what the Cadaver Synod revealed wasn't a weird one-off. It was a mindset. If death can't stop judgment, then power never loses its reach. Fast forward 5 centuries north to England. John Wycliffe is long dead, a theologian who attacked church corruption and inspired the Lollards. He died peacefully in 1384. That should have been the end. But at the Council of Constance in 1415, Wycliffe was condemned as a heretic anyway. His books were ordered burned, and decades later, the church decided even his bones were too dangerous to rest in holy ground. In 1428, officials exhumed his corpse, burned it, and scattered the ashes into the River Swift. Notice the logic. Wycliffe was no longer alive to threaten anyone, but his ideas were still contagious. So they tried to kill the idea by punishing the body that once carried it. Now go to Florence, 13th century. Farinata degli Uberti was a political leader, a Ghibelline who backed the emperor against the pope. He died in 1264. 19 years later, the Catholic Inquisition exhumed Farinata and his wife, and put their corpses on trial for heresy. Think about that. No living defendant, no living witnesses. Only a verdict aimed at rewriting a political past. The dead body here isn't the target, it's the symbol. Put the symbol on trial, and you put the faction on trial. Condemn the corpse, and you condemn the memory of everyone who followed it. It's tempting to treat corpse trials like medieval Halloween stories, but they were doing real work in the medieval world. They were public rituals of control. A frightened society wanted proof that chaos could be contained, even when the culprit was already in the ground. Weapons in faction warfare. The Cadaver Synod wasn't really about Formosis's sins. It was about erasing his political legacy and invalidating his appointments. Legal machines for stripping wealth and status. Verdicts after death weren't meaningless. They could dismantle families and reroute property. A way to settle the unsolvable. When a society can't accept that something terrible happened without consequence, it invents consequence. Here's the chilling part. Medieval Europe didn't see death as a boundary. It saw death as a doorway, and the courtroom could reach through it. If you believed the dead could still suffer punishment, then justice demanded follow-through. If you believed sin-infected communities, that removing the sinner's honor, even posthumously, was a kind of sanitation. If you believed authority came from God, then authority had to be dramatically visible. A corpse trial is what happens when law, theology, and terror all agree on one thing. Someone must pay. Because it is one, just not the kind with monsters. The monster is the idea that power gets to decide what counts as a life worth remembering. These trials were a way of saying, you don't just die. You can be unmade, your works erased, your sacraments invalidated, your bones dragged into daylight to prove a moral point to the living. And if that can happen to popes and noblemen, what chance did ordinary people believe they had? Look across these stories, and the shape repeats. A society in crisis, a powerful enemy already dead, a fear that memory or influence will survive, a public ritual to crush the ghost of that influence. The corpse is the stage prop, the audience is the real target, because the living are the ones who need to see that the world still has rules. Even if those rules have to be enforced on a body that can't hear them. So, the next time you hear about a corpse trial, don't picture comedy. Picture a civilization terrified of instability. Picture leaders who need the crowd to believe order is still possible. Picture a world where judgment is not a human debate, but a cosmic necessity. The dead were tried because the living couldn't tolerate loose ends, because fear demands a culprit, because power demands spectacle, and because in the medieval mind the courtroom was not a room. It was a net thrown over reality itself, wide enough to catch even the grave. Next time on Lore&Ruin, we're following the same impulse you saw tonight. The need to turn fear into ritual, to create a monster when the world feels unstable, to stage judgment so people believe order can return. Only this time the accused won't be dead bodies, it will be children, and the judge won't be a court. It will be a horned thing in the winter woods. Next, Krampus, the shadow Christmas needed before it learned to smile.